All right, we're going to start things off with a guy that I call my buddy. Now, some of you may not think that's the case after a couple years ago, some fireworks, but Michael Bratton, SEC Mike, joining us here from that SEC podcast. We're buds, right, Mike?
Absolutely. It's always an honor to join you, David, and TexAgs, the go-to source for Texas A&M. So anytime you guys want me, I'm here.
I appreciate that, man. So let's start off with Alabama for a moment, because I know that a couple weeks back, and you and I have been on the same page on this for a while, that a couple years ago I said, I don't know if we're going to see Bama win another championship during the Saban era. I said that just considering the way college football was moving. They may end up winning it this year. Who knows? But looks like they fixed the quarterback situation for now. Are you more buying into what their future looks like? Or are you still having major doubts?
No, it's the decaying dynasty for a reason. And I think it's hilarious that people saw last week and they're back in. I mean, I don't know what in the world they're seeing. And this is a game that I picked Alabama to win by double digits, and I still think they're a decaying dynasty. Jalen Milroe is just so limited in what he can do. I mean, I think this sums up that game better than anything. They blocked a punt. They took over at the 1 yard line. 2 plays later, they were at the 20, and there's no penalty involved there. I mean, they're just awful on offense. And Jalen Milroe, he throws a good deep ball. He's an incredible athlete. Maybe it's unfair because he's only started about 4 games. I think he'll get a little bit better, but I don't think he's the problem. I think it's lack of playmakers. I think it's the offensive line. I really think it's Tommy Rees. And again, that is all on Nick Saban's responsibility. We can blame this coordinator. We can blame this quarterback. We can blame that. This is Nick Saban's program. He's been there long enough. He's got the same roster that Georgia has. Heck, I think he had a better roster last year with the number 1 and number 3 overall pick. He didn't even win his division. So no, a win over Lane Whiffen, as we're calling him now, who's never won a big game in his life, has not got me at home. That's not got me back on Bama's bandwagon. They're going to lose to A&M in a couple of weeks. They're going to lose to LSU. They'll probably lose to Tennessee. And I think even Kentucky and Lexington is going to give them a run for their money. So, no, I'm not buying into Bama.
All right, Mike, let me follow that up because our feud last year was about A&M and Jimbo versus Sam Pittman. So when you see this game, 2 teams that have high aspirations, how do you see it breaking down?
Right, and I think that's maybe a little overly simplistic, but I think that's the key to the game is how well Arkansas can protect KJ, because I think his weapons, I think A&M has shown that, they'll give up some big plays in the secondary. So I think Arkansas's got an advantage there with their receivers going up against the secondary, but none of that matters, to your point, if the front 7, if they can get to KJ, and I think they will in this game. So, yeah, I would certainly lean A&M. I'm interested to see in the quarterback, who actually suits up for the Aggies. Not that it may not matter. Max Johnson, obviously, he was the better quarterback for A&M last week, but I've been wildly impressed with Connor Wigman. And, of course, last year it was Max Johnson that won him the game over Arkansas. I realize different team, different coordinators and things of that nature, but I don't think enough credit is being given to Bobby Petrino. And credit Jimbo for making the right decision, taking his hands off the quarterbacks and the play calling, giving it to Bobby Petrino. That's been masterful. Now, if they can just get the defense going, you can't write off A&M as a team to win the West.
Talking to SEC Mike here on Up to the Second College Football. A&M doesn't have Connor. Max does a really nice job. Just how does that, if it is long-term, how does that change the way you look at A&M? Considering Max is a really good quarterback, but he's not Connor.
Right. Yeah, and I think that may limit the potential of A&M. And I'm not trying to slight Max Johnson because we saw him, like I said, he was the better quarterback last week. So we got to give him that. He is a very, very solid quarterback. But I think Connor Wigman has the potential to potentially win a Heisman Trophy. I think he's got that within him. So we have seen enough of Max Johnson to know. I just don't think that he's got that potential. So again, I'm not trying to knock him or anything like that, but can he beat Bama? I think he can. Can he go into LSU and win? Well, he's been on the other sideline. He's won some big games there, so maybe that's not fair either. But I just think the ceiling is a lot higher with Connor Wigman. But again, we put so much praise and so much blame on these quarterbacks. I think with the play caller and more importantly, all the weapons surrounding the quarterback in College Station, that's what's making both those guys look good. All the weapons they have to work with. So again, if Max Johnson, let's say he's the starting quarterback the rest of the year, I'm not writing A&M off by any means. I just think that Connor Wigman gives them a little bit better chance to win the West and maybe even the entire SEC, because I've not been wildly impressed with Georgia either.
When you were forecasting some of Alabama's potential losses, you did not mention Arkansas as one of those teams. So let's play this out for a moment. They lost to BYU. All right, obviously, they lost to LSU. If they lose to A&M, that's potentially right there under that scenario, 4 straight losses. That is possible. I'm not saying that you're predicting that. What would that mean to Sam Pittman? Is he safe?
I think it depends on how those games play out. Like, I mean, we don't hand out moral victories in the SEC or anything. So, I mean, the fans are not happy with losing to LSU, but going to Tiger Stadium, rough environment, maybe the roughest environment in college football at night, and lose them by 3. I mean, I don't think they're ready to run him off. Is it more games like that, or are they losing by 30 points in those ball games? I think that's a different story. But no, I think at this point, Sam Pittman is not under any kind of hot seat. But again, we say that now, and the losses keep racking up. Heck, they're ready to run off Nick Saban, or at least they were after that Texas game. I mean, we'll run off anybody if you start racking up losses. So certainly, I think that would put some pressure under him. But I think he's more likely to retire than he is to get fired at Arkansas. I think that is a more realistic outcome, maybe even by the end of the year.
Mike, look, I was high on Kentucky entering this season, and I'm still high on them, but they really haven't convinced me that they're that team that I thought they could be. Florida has changed, I guess, the perception a little bit. What do you see in this game right now?
Yeah, I think this is the toughest one to predict this weekend, just to your point, because we don't know who in the heck Kentucky is. They've essentially played 4 cupcakes. They've looked dominant during those games. They've looked awful during those games. And they're figuring things out with a new quarterback, Liam Cohen. Not really a new offensive coordinator, but kind of with him going to the NFL and coming back after just one season. So there's been some growing pains there. They're having a lot of problems with drops, with bad snaps, with penalties. And I think all those things are fixable. And if they fix them, I thought, just like you, I was very high on Kentucky. I said they could win 10 games this year. And I'm not ready to go that far after watching them for 4 weeks. The next 6 weeks is just a gauntlet for them. They got Florida, obviously, at Georgia, Missouri, Tennessee, at Mississippi State, and then Alabama. So 5 of those 6 are ranked. And there's no chance they go undefeated through that. But if they go 4-2 through the next 6, they will get to 10 wins this season. So, but they have got to clean up all these issues that are fixable. But if they play like they've been playing the last couple of weeks, they probably won't go 500 during that 6-game stretch.
All right, let's talk Tennessee, South Carolina. Play out the scenario for both teams, a loss, what it means to them, especially considering what South Carolina's already had to endure.
Season's over for whoever loses. And I hate to put that much pressure because it's bad for my business. I don't want people tuning off. But, I mean, realistically, what is Tennessee going to be if they've already lost 2 games and they got Bama coming up? They got A&M coming up. They got Georgia coming up. I think they may lose all those games if they cannot beat South Carolina at night, at home. And kind of the same deal for South Carolina. I mean, they've got Clemson. They got A&M. They've got Kentucky, Florida. I mean, they got a gauntlet coming up as well. They owned Tennessee last season, so there's a little bit of that edge. Spencer Rattler, I think he's playing better than anybody in the country at the quarterback position right now. But the problem for Carolina is they don't have a lot of help around him. Their defense has been awful, and their offensive line is not much better, and they literally have no running game. So it's all on Spencer Rattler. Can he keep this up without being a balanced attack? I don't. It's tough to see. But hey, if he wins in Neyland Stadium, I think he deserves to be in the conversation for the Heisman. I realize he won't win it because the Heisman now, they just give it to the best player on the best team. And South Carolina is far from that. They're going to probably finish with 3 or 4 losses. But I don't know that there's any one player that is elevating his team individually as much as Spencer Rattler right now.
Mike, I'm going to ask you something that's not SEC specific, but I'll make it SEC specific. America wants to watch Colorado. America wants to see what happens with USC. I think because I'm in SEC country and our storylines, to me, are much bigger deals, I haven't been that interested. Yeah, it's a talking point. I pay attention. I'm curious to see what happens with Colorado. It's a curiosity, and I'm curious to see what happens with USC. But I think because of the big games that we'll see this weekend and overall, yeah, I care, but I don't care. What do you say to that?
Yeah, I think Dan Lanning may be the most popular coach in the country this week after that thrashing that Oregon gave Colorado. But no, I mean, it's certainly been interesting. It is more hype than substance, which, hey, I don't mind hype at all. I mean, I love Lane Kiffin when he's out here tweeting and doing all this crazy stuff and poking fun at Nick Saban. But what really matters to people that really truly care about this stuff is delivering on Saturday. And hey, to Deion's credit, they've beaten who they've beaten up until Saturday when they got completely exposed. But yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, I think it's overboard. But again, the more attention on college football, I think that's better for all of us. So in that regard, I like Deion. And I would not be surprised if he makes his way to the SEC before long, because if he wants to coach at the pinnacle of college football, obviously everybody knows where that's at.
Mike, I appreciate your time, man. You do great work, and thanks for making a few minutes for us.
Absolutely. Anytime. Thanks for having me, David.